Yeah. All right. I think we're live now, but I'm trying to get the Instagram feed going. So welcome to the Hoosier Huddle podcast, Crimson Audible. I'm Sammy Jacobs. Along with me is Jamie Jordan. We are here to talk Indiana football, as always, on Wednesday nights. We'll get some folks in here before we get started. We'll talk fall camp. We'll go position groups as well. We'll take questions from the audience as well. So if you are watching, send your questions in the comment section, and then we'll get started on all of this in a minute. How are you doing, Jamie?
Good. Yeah, just had some insane storms here the last couple of days in Chicago, but was out tonight for a walk with my wife and my son, and we had a great time. So getting ready for fall camp. It's still muggy and hot here, but getting ready for fall camp. Very excited.
Yeah, we've got hammered with some with a ton of rain here in Indiana, especially the northeast part of the state. So hopefully, if you're listening, that means you have power, which is good, but you're staying safe from these flood waters and all that stuff. I think around the Muncie area, Newcastle and all that stuff. I saw like they got like 15 inches of rain in the last 24 hours. It's some insane number that you only see when it snows. So hopefully you guys are doing okay, and we could give you a little respite and talk some Indiana football.
Let's do it.
All right. So Indiana has wrapped up fall practice number 5 yesterday. They'll have fall practice number 6 tomorrow. We'll be down there. Their shoulder pads are on, pads are popping. Nothing really noteworthy coming out of camp, which is good in fall camp.
No injuries. There's been some injuries. There's also been some weird non-injuries, right? I mean, I think that's
I think everybody learned a good lesson out of Oregon today, where it looked like, I think it was Jordan Davidson. It was reported that he re-broke his collarbone, would be out for 6 to 8 weeks, and then a couple hours later, the coach was like, he was practicing today, and there's video from practice and all that stuff. So, it's, if you're a young journalist, it is always better to be right than first. And I know that's not everybody's philosophy these days. So
you got to be first. I think that's one of the biggest problems with journalism, just in general, is that if you're not first, you're last. And I think that's something like that's a big deal if Jordan Davidson broke his collarbone, and then for him to be practicing is crazy. So good. I'm glad he's okay.
Yeah, it's we had the few minutes of the Dyer Hill is the running back, and that's just kicks off a lot of good memories for IU fans and stuff like that. So let's get into fall camp, Jamie.
Sure.
And you wanted to ask me some questions about it. I'll let you.
I'll kind of
take over.
I'm not always the captain, I guess. Usually just the guy answering some questions and kind of firing back. But wanted to ask, since you've been at every single practice now that's been media, I know you don't see, you're not really reporting on who's doing what, I guess, where like in terms of depth chart or like who's past who. But wanted to ask you about some position groups that I felt like were who kind of stood out, and what kind of young guys stood out to you that are kind of making a move up the depth chart that you see as impressive. So first one, obviously, I think we know that the top 5 on the offensive line are from left to right: Smith, Evans, Lynch, Ajani, and Bruner. But is there anyone else standing out to you that looks like, because it seems like it's, as we've talked before, it seems like it's Lee Pride and Wilkin as the next 2, but is there anyone else past that? Because we don't, people that aren't at practices, we don't know anything about these other guys. Is there anyone that's caught your eye in terms of just like how they look physically, and then maybe how quick they are off the ball, something like that?
Yeah, well, we don't get to see live periods, so it's really hard to judge the lines.
There's no 11.
There's no 11 on 11. There's no like offense against defense that we see. It's going through individual drills, some stuff on air. But the big thing that I took away, a lot of these young guys like Ben Novak, Baylor Wilkin. They have big bodies there. This is not like Indiana teams of the past where, you'd have like five guys who look like they could play in the Big Ten, maybe fewer than that, and then a couple guys who look like maybe they could back up somebody on a high school team.
Yeah.
These guys have the body types that look like, okay, this is a Big Ten team. And you see guys, Ben Novak's a freshman. Let me get my handy dandy roster here.
Yeah, I mean, that was so him
Yeah.
and Sam Simpson were ones that come to mind just because Sam Simpson we did see in the spring, he played a lot. He got kind of
Yeah,
embarrassed.
Sam Simpson, Ben Novak, Evan Parker is another one to keep an eye on. Matt Merrick, Keaton Mondu, who is he wasn't a late add to the roster, but he came in the summer. He wasn't in spring. Like all those, Keaton Mondu 6'7", 315. He's hard to miss.
Yeah.
So like those guys stand out and stuff like that. And I think just talking to Joe Brunner in the press conference yesterday, we'll get to Jacob Savage here. That's on Jamie's list.
He's one of the guys I want to talk about.
Yeah, but like talking to Joe Brunner, it's been a seamless transition for him. And people get into him switching from guard to tackle, and I think moving from the left to the right side or the right to the left side, and stuff like that. And he's like, it's not a challenge. He's there to play ball. He was a Bo-Stat guy at Wisconsin. He knows, he's played tackle in practice. He's played in a few games of tackle at Wisconsin, and he knows how to play guard. So he's more of a tackle body than a Johnny. So I think they made a good move there. But we'll see. I think this line is deeper than it was last year. Yeah, it's going to be tough to replace.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think they probably, tell me if I'm wrong, but they probably feel good about at least Wilkin and Leapfried. And I mean, the way Sam Simpson looked, again, he got kind of whipped by Ocean Sammy in the spring game, but like he was a true freshman going against, in my opinion, going to be one of the premier pass rushers in college football this year, Tobias and Sammy. So, like, if you can add one more guy to that mix, if it's Novak at tackle because he's a tackle body, or if it's Sam Simpson inside, I mean that's kind of what you want. I guess next kind of position group I just wanted to ask you about because Sig mentioned it in press conference that he had, but he was talking about obviously how Brock Schott looked really good. Andrew Barker also he mentioned, and then he mentioned true freshman Trevor Gibbs, who, I mean, he's essentially the exact same size, a little bit less weight than Riley Nowakowski, and same kind of like if you watch some of the videos that people shot, he's got the hair come out of the helmet. Like it's almost weird how alike they actually look. What are your thoughts on at least those two, and then Gibbs just like kind of, I mean, getting mentioned by Sig in the spring already as a true freshman at tight end, that's high praise.
Yeah, if Trevor Gibbs wore 37, you'd kind of take a double take. Like, wait a minute, is that right? Riley Nowakowski or Niley Noah Rowakowski or whatever? And then all the people saying, "Well, you're bringing back 25-year-old NFL guys." Yeah, but to me, Brock Schott. Again, we don't get to see them live and hit, so it's mainly pass catching and all that stuff. Brock Schott's a very confident pass catcher, and he's very athletic, and he could do that well. There's, there were throws where he had to, kind of lean or leap and make a catch, but all the balls on his hand, when he catches them, there's no juggle, there's no bobble. It's a clean catch, 99 times out of 100 and stuff like that. But yeah, Trevor Gibbs is the guy who has the body type to be the Riley Nowakowski. I think you also, Stephen Daly played that fullback position too, a little bit last year, and you could throw him in there as long as those guys are eligible. They might throw a Stephen Daly in there to
Yeah.
be the Riley Nowakowski fullback
Yeah.
or a Kellen Wyatt in there. Because I don't think, other than Trevor Gibbs, the body types of those tight ends don't really give you fullback vibes like Nowakowski.
No, totally. I mean, he's listed at
So
6'2", yeah, he's listed at 6'2", 241 right now.
yeah, he's built like a tank, and that's why. But it's good to see these guys who, were half in, half out in the spring with injury.
Yeah.
Come on, because it was I wouldn't say a concern, it's a curiosity. Um, Going into that position was, okay, there's a lot of potential here. What does it start looking like? So it looks like they have some real talent there and different body types to where they could look. There's no red shirts anymore. So if you need to throw Trevor Gibbs out there to block for a play or two in a couple games, there's no risk at losing a year. So
I mean, I think you make a major point that I think people are going to have to. It's going to be weird as if you have been a fan of college football as long as Sammy or I have. Um, it's weird that there's no. First of all, you used to not even be able to actually play at all to get a red shirt. Then it was 4 games. Now there's no red shirt at all, so you just get the fifth year anyway. And it's going to be different than it was. You're not going to have to be holding guys out just to hold them out.
no, and the travel roster increased to 80 from 74.
Never understood why it was 74 to begin with.
Yeah, so now you could bring a guy like Trevor Gibbs. Hey, we have our goal line package or something, and some guy who might be used just at one package gets to travel now instead of, hey, we need to bring a backup kicker because our kicker might get hurt or something like that, or we might need a backup punter.
Right.
So it's the tight. I feel like.
Do you feel better or worse about the tight end spot than when you went like in fall when we didn't really know? Completely unknown.
I feel better. I don't know how you could feel worse. I mean, you could feel better because you have 4 or 5 guys there who are actually on the field practicing instead of 2 and maybe somebody going through drills recovering from injuries. So it's added. What do they have? 7 scholarship tight ends. Is that what it is?
Yeah, they have 7. So, McFarland did. Excuse me, they have 6 with McFarland as the 6th.
Yeah.
So they have 6.
Yeah, so 6. So
I just lastly on the offense, because again, we don't need to really belabor the quarterback position. We know Hoover. We think Grant Wilson is second. Tyler Cherry, my guess, is going to get run over Wilson in the bye games. And then
that's my philosophy on it.
Yeah, we talked about this kind of ad nauseum here last week. So, what I did want to mention, because I think it was Sig that mentioned, or someone mentioned that that LeBron Bond was being kind of moved outside, and Davion Chandler was kind of playing more in the slot. Now they already have Tyler Morris there, who I think is going to see a lot of snaps. But you watch. There's a lot of quick twitch in Davion Chandler. Very exciting young player. Wasn't a super highly rated recruit, but high enough where it's like, okay, the pedigree is kind of there. Where do you see Davion Chandler fitting into this wide receiver group? It's going to obviously be led by Marsh, Preston, and Becker, probably, and Morris. As the older guys. Where do you see Chandler fitting there?
Yeah, Jamie, while I answer this, I think you need to adjust your mic because it is coming in a little tinny and all that stuff, and people are having so. As far as who's playing where, again, we can't really talk about it, but it's also Sig loves to mix and match and put guys try different groupings together because there could be a time where maybe Charlie Becker and Nick Marsh aren't available and Davion Chandler has to play in the slot. And we saw it last year with Omar Cooper when Tyler Morris went down, played in the slot, but then, moved to the outside and stuff like that, or played in the slot during the game. It's tough to read into that and say, hey, this is exactly what they're doing. One, I can't tell you that anyway, but it's one where it's not like you're trying to find 6 guys who could play. It's unique. It's now you have 6 guys. Let's figure out who could play where. Let's try and experiment and things like that. So we'll see, in game 1, again, we don't get to see team stuff, all that stuff. They go through drills. They line up in different spots. I think people read a little bit too much where people are lined up and things like that, especially early in fall camp where Sig loves to play guys in different spots and experiment. We had a question on the wide receivers there, Jamie. Who do you think gets more playing time, Morris or Preston?
I mean, for me, I have to think. I think that I thought that Morris was one of the biggest ads last year when they made.
Yeah, I'm going to take special teams out of it. Because
Okay.
that's not because then it would be no question Tyler Morris. But I do think Tyler Morris gets more playing time because he'll be one of the 3 starters.
Yeah,
and then
100%.
Shaz Preston will be kind of what EJ Williams was at the end of last year, where Charlie Becker was so good you could not take him off the field. But you can't, guys can't play the entire game all the time. So having a guy like Shaz,
I just wanted to say, Tyler Morris was one of their big ads in 24. If he hadn't gotten hurt, he would have been the starting slot. I don't think Cooper moves into the slot. We probably see it's a little bit different of the like an entire alignment, honestly, because Cooper was so hard to stop in the slot because he was basically untackleable by guys in the secondary. I think it just gave them a different dimension. But Morris gives you that quick twitch, beat you with the deep speed kind of ability that we didn't see, and if we had, I think people would, Preston is a nice player. If you watch his tape, he looks really good. He was very good last year. He also has the pedigree, but I just feel like people are kind of sleeping on Tyler Morris if he's fully healthy. We saw a little bit in the spring game, but I think he's, in my opinion, he's the more important player, at least to start the season. We don't know how it's going to go once the bullets quote unquote start flying or whatever. So.
I also think it depends on who can block. Like everybody's in the chat, 4 or 5 wide receiver sets. They got to block too. You look. Josh Hoover's not as physically imposing as Fernando Mendoza was, so protecting him is going to be utmost. Do you have to leave another tight end in? Do you have to play 2 tight ends to help block? Do you have, is the running back blocking well? Do you need to chip with some guys? You're exposing your quarterback playing 4 and 5 receivers. Are they going to do it sometimes? Yeah. And, Sig's offense also loves to motion guys into different positions.
Yeah.
There was a couple plays against Illinois where, Omar Cooper comes in and then, crack blocks a defensive back.
I think one of the things from, and just like thinking back, because like a lot, the way that they used when they had smaller, quicker guys like Price and Williams playing a lot at the same time back in 24, there was a lot of those tunnel screen plays that, Williams made a bunch of plays on that. They used it last year with Nowakowski a couple times, but I thought that was going to be a bigger part of the offense. They basically didn't use it. I'm not saying they're going to use it more, but they just, because of the way that they had Cooper in the slot, they didn't need to do stuff like that because he was, he didn't need.
Here's the beauty of Sig. If you watch that, the YouTube thing with Reese Davis, the tight end screen to Nowakowski in the Illinois game, they dusted that off from IUP. Like this guy.
Oh, I did see it.
Yeah. They dusted that thing off from IUP. So that was 10, 12, 13 years ago. And if you've watched it, it was a great insight to how his mind works. He is a human computer. And so now he gives his coaches a lot of room to coach, but he'll make his suggestions. If he sees something that, hey, we ran this 10 years ago and it worked against this defense and we have the personnel now to do it, they're going to figure out what to do. Somebody asked about wide receiver blocking. Again, we don't get to see 11 and 11. There's no tackling and all that stuff. But if you go back and watch Nick Marsh at Michigan State, especially early in the USC game, he's a physical blocker. Charlie Becker knows how to block on the outside. And the culture in this. Sorry, my dog's going crazy. I don't know why. She's a puppy. But there's, they're going to block and be up to the standard. And if you're not blocking, I think it's, what is it? No block, no rock. Is the saying or something like that. And they're going to be up to that. So while we don't get to see how good they are in practice at blocking, you can go to, if they're starting on the field on game one, they're probably pretty darn good at blocking, or else they're going to find their way to the bench really quick.
Yeah. I did want to ask you, so sorry about that. Ironically, I live in a condo building. One of the neighbors is locked out because it's so humid. Their door is like the door coming into our building is like basically sealed shut. But they got it open, so no big deal. I was just like trying to read this thing going back and forth here. But anyway, go ahead.
I think so. I think IU's camp day is on Friday. BTN. We don't have access on Friday. BTN usually gets to see the entire practice.
Yeah.
So I would watch that show. I don't know what type
I believe
of
it's Friday.
practice
I'm going to be recording it.
Well, it might. You know what? It might be they record tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see if BTN.
Oh, yeah, they would record and play it. Is what you're saying?
Yeah. We're down at practice tomorrow. We'll see if BTN is there. Usually, BTN gets to see the whole practice, and stuff like that. My guess, based on past practice schedules, that Saturday would be the first scrimmage, which I don't know if you're going to have a full padded practice on Thursday before a scrimmage, especially under Signetti. But
right.
they'll get to see the team stuff. They'll have more insights and things like that, and they do a good job. Let's switch to defense, Jamie, and get to the defense line first.
I wanted to ask you. Obviously, we talked about it a little bit, but last week. But what have you seen specifically from Wyatt? Because we've seen Daly now a couple times, but Wyatt was newly in camp. Like, how did he look? Obviously, again, no pads, just helmets. But what did you see from him? How he looked, I guess, because he's another guy who's just been out for a very long time. I know he was training and whatnot, but it's one thing to train and one thing to be on the field again with the other guys going full speed. So
so he's a couple days behind Daly in terms of acclimation. So like the first day we were down there, he didn't do any of the contact drills and stuff like that because there's probably some acclimation stuff that you have to clear, and he's I think a day or two behind in practices. But athletically, he looks good going side to side, moving forward and stuff like that. I know there's been chatter about him playing linebacker. He's played it in the past. I think in an emergency, you can put him there. Or if you need to get somebody else on the field and maybe go with like a 3-4 or hell, even like a 5 linebacker look if you wanted to. He could play there. It's all depending on how good he is laterally.
Yeah.
Which in the agility drills, he looks pretty good. He looks in shape. This isn't, I think that Ohio State fan, what do you compare it to getting the Avengers off the couch? This isn't Fat Thor coming to, after yelling at Noobmaster 69. This is, he's in shape. He looks in pretty good shape and ready to go.
Well, I was going to say, just from looking at it, again, it's because he got injured a couple times in that Oregon game, and then kind of never came back fully healthy after that, really. And so I guess my question is, did he look thick? Because it looked to me like he looked thinner. Do you think that's accurate? Because he was listed at 6'2", 257 last year. I mean, he looked thick last year, I thought. What did you see there? Is it because these guys came in,
he is listed at 6'2", 257 this year again.
Yeah.
It also takes me a minute to adjust that he is not number 13 on the
I
defense.
know
He
he's
is
number 18.
number
He's
18.
number 18. Yeah.
And then the jerseys all look the same. Like
Yeah.
but no, he looks thinner. Maybe because he was, training to go to an NFL camp and stuff like
Right.
that, or work,
They're trying to see what he
yeah,
can do.
people when they work out for NFL teams will look noticeably thinner
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
kind of cut weight so they can perform better.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I mean, they have to get these guys eligible, or keep them eligible until the season starts, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I know everybody's asking about them and all that stuff, and it's like great, but my attitude going into the season is like I'm going to act like they're not there because this could go away in a second.
Yeah.
I do think that they'll play a prominent role. Sig said that Daly should be going 11-11 next week, and then Wyatt was a couple days behind him. He said that on Monday. So that gives you what, 2, maybe 3 weeks until the opener.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. We'll see how much they play, and we'll see how early they play. But what, Daly will be ahead of Wyatt in terms of playing. So all those, again, go back to responsible reporting. I don't know what Stephen Daly's injury was. I don't think anybody knows.
No one found out. So.
There's a lot of speculation that was a patellar tear, or was an ACL tear and stuff like that, but nobody knows. Things like that.
They just never released it, and I understand why it makes sense to me.
So
let's move back to linebacker, because I wanted to ask you, because I think Sig. Well, you had mentioned, I know to me, but Jacob Savage. What have you seen with 21 Savage there at the linebacker position?
Yeah, if you want a Jacob Savage shirt, and we're going to do a shameless plug here. If you need a 21 Savage shirt, go to the NIL store, nil.store/Indiana. Go to Jacob Savage, buy as many Jacob Savage shirts as you want. Put in code Hoosier Huddle, one word, at checkout, and get 15% off your order.
There you go.
Got
Shameless
that
plug,
out of the way.
It's a good one.
Shameless plug.
He looks like a player already.
He does. He looks the most physically ready to play in a Big Ten game. He's thick, he's tall, and I don't think he's going to be in the linebacker rotation, other than maybe you get him in blowouts. But I do expect him to play on special teams. I do expect him to be take that Charlie Becker, Davion Chandler route to playing time. But you don't want to take Isaiah Jones and Ro Hardy off the field all that often.
Yeah.
Unless the game's in hand and all that stuff. And then you also have to get Caden Turner and PJ Nelson up to speed, or Caden Turner and Jeff Utzinger, keep them in the loop too, because they both had, Utzinger and Turner have both played big downs. Everybody talks about the Hardy pass breakup in the fourth quarter that led to the missed field goal. Aiden Fisher was out on that play too. He was banged up the play before, and guess who's in there covering the running back? Caden Turner. Yeah. Jeff Utzinger had a TFL in that game that was wiped out with the procedure penalties.
Yeah, I mean, that was amazing.
I think Daly was lined off a nose hair off sides or something.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So they are used and trusted in situations. So there's your top
also use a bunch of linebackers, even though they have 8, but they're going to use a bunch of them. That's why I can see why. Sorry to cut you off, but you can see why I don't think he's going to just play linebacker. Like, I think some people kind of think he'll move in those heavy sets to play linebacker. I think he's going to be like near the line of scrimmage. But I also just think that they're going to play a bunch of linebackers because Turner played a lot last year. And he was kind of the forgotten guy. And then Utzinger, I mean, again, that was it. That play, if he actually makes that TFL, that would have been a massive play in that Ohio State game. So, and again, that's a former walk-on out there. So, yeah. So So go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm cutting you off there.
No, this is a good question. Who in the second group of linebackers do you think is the green dot guy? Is that position based or just the leader of the defense? So the green dot guy means that he could communicate with the sideline. Usually you want that to be your middle linebacker, which is why it's going to be Isaiah Jones. If Isaiah Jones goes out, if Isaiah Jones goes out for any reason, I would assume that it would go to Elijah Hardy because he's the more veteran guy in there. Behind those guys, maybe Caden Turner. He plays that middle linebacker spot. He'll back up Jones as well. So
even other
back there. But yeah, to me, I think it's whoever knows the defense best. Like when D'Angelo Pons went out, Rylan Gandy came in and took the signals, the secondary signals, and we're giving those in the Iowa game and stuff like that.
Yep.
So usually it's a little bit position based, but as the helmet communicator, you usually want it to be a linebacker because they can communicate to both the defensive line and the secondary what the defense is. I would assume that it goes who knows the defense best. If those top two guys go out, I would assume it goes to Turner and then Utzinger.
That would be my guess.
I'm not even going to talk about the third string guys because if you get down to needing a third string green dot guy, we're way down. It is not good. But that doesn't mean I don't trust them. It's just like that's like beyond break glass and in case of emergency stuff.
And then, so I guess if we want to quickly move off the linebacker, I did want to see, because one of my favorite players last year was Garrett Reese. Wanted to see what you thought of him just physically, and then Ciante Stewart, who doesn't really get talked about very much, but was another player that physically was playing, looked imposing, and his huddle stuff, obviously we didn't really see him last year. And then DeMonte Timms, who, I mean, seemingly a couple times the staff brought him up last year without even, after he signed, like without even, being mentioned as a guy that could potentially come in and play at least special teams right away, in my opinion. So where do you think about like Timms, Stewart, and then Reese? Just physically, where do you see them at right
now? I mean, they look like they're ready to play. Even DeMonte Timms coming in as a freshman. The new strength and conditioning guys have done a great job of getting these guys at least to look the part. So far in camp. I haven't really watched the safeties that closely. One, where we are at practice, because we've been in Mellon camp twice. We've been in the stadium once. And where you're positioned, sometimes guys are on the other side of the field and stuff like that. But physically, they look good. I mean, the guy I was a little shocked about. I know we've seen Preston Zachman. He makes Amari Farrell look like a little guy.
Yeah.
Like he's big, he's a big dude. Yeah. And stuff like that. But these are not like, you're not running out 5'9" safeties that used to be walk-ons. Your Garrett Reese is a legitimate
I think they clearly have a body type that they like. I mean, Farrell 6'2", 205 listed. Garrett Reese 6'2", 205. Preston Zachman 6'2", 209. Ciante Stewart 6'1", 205. Brian Baldwin 6'2".
Preston Zachman looks bigger than 6'2".
Does he? Yeah.
But maybe just perspective from my perspective, but he looks bigger than 6'5". Ciante Stewart's number 9. They're gonna have to change. They're gonna have to change numbers there for him because they have 3 number 9s. Sure. Yeah, 6'1", 205 and stuff like that.
Yeah, right now they're at number 9 as well with Stewart. So it'll be interesting.
Zachman is flying under the radar, and
that's good to hear. That's something I had not heard.
Yeah, I mean, he's a seventh-year guy. He was really good at Wisconsin. He was their defensive MVP, I think, 2 years ago. He got banged up last year, but had a couple interceptions. Go watch the Wisconsin Alabama game.
Yeah,
He
I
made
watched
some
it.
play. He made
Yep.
some plays there, and he's just I think as a team that safety play was so good last year, late in the year, because they were not good at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
And a lot of that was because Lou Moore was distracted with his off the field eligibility cases, understandably. And as soon as that case got settled, it his mind was focused on football.
Mhm.
Uh, Getting a veteran like Zachman to come in and play next to Amari Farrell, who was there, now you have another veteran, and it's not like you're bringing in a young guy who hasn't played. You've got two experienced guys back there, and the communication should be
Yeah.
good.
Yep.
Zachman doesn't have a lawsuit to think about. Um,
Yeah,
so,
he can just be a
yeah,
yeah.
as good as Lou Moore was, um, it seemed like for the first five games, 6 games, he was kind of not all, understandably not all there because his future was in doubt
Mhm.
weekly.
Yeah, absolutely. Lastly, just quickly touch on the corners. Just don't. I think Sharp. We Sig all but confirmed that Sharp is yeah, CB1. But like with, I know that Gandy's been beat up or banged up or whatever. Anyone else that stood out other than Harris, who I know that they've said needs to be more
I
consistent, but
like
like Carson
I
Williams,
like
Jalen Bell, any of those
I, li-
guys?
I like Carson Williams, man.
Yeah,
I think he's look. It was against air or whatever, and they were doing a drill where it's, I guess it's a bad ball drill or a jump ball drill where the coach is throwing it up and you're trying to high point the ball and get an interception. But his body control and athleticism and size is really good. He has the proof is in the pudding there from where was he? Montana State. He was an FCS All American, freshman All American. And like you've said about Rylan Gandy, um, it's kind of the same path of they brought him in to learn behind Jamari Sharp, AJ
yep,
Harris, and Rylan Gandy
yep,
to be in the mix next year to start when those guys move on. Again, we don't get to see them go against the receivers, so it's really tough to judge good on good. Hopefully, BTN gets to see some of that and can talk about it, and
yep.
then we'll see. Jamari Sharp keeps getting better every single year. Um, and I wrote about it like a day or two before the national title game. He was more than just the other corner for IU last year. He
Yeah, he was
was
disrespected. I felt like he got disrespected. He was. I mean, if you just watch him, he's legitimately 6'1" and has track speed. It was all about, could he put it all together. And Sig talked about it ad nauseum with him, and he's talked about it now with Harris as well, and some of the other guys. But it's the consistency. It's the putting it over and over and over. And he clearly last year, by the end of the year, I felt like he was,
Yeah,
one
and
beat.
even when he got beat on a long pass by Kennesaw State, he ran it down and caused a fumble that really changed the game,
Totally
and
agree.
put IU out in front more. It basically took a field goal, at least a field goal away from Kennesaw State, and IU went down to I think
Yep.
go up 21-6 or something,
Yep.
to turn kind of a nail biter. Like, what are we seeing? They struggled against ODU. Here we go again, type of thing. To okay, they hit the accelerator and didn't look back
Right.
from that point. But yeah, he works hard. He's coachable, and he's improved every single year. And he's going to be one of the leaders on that defense this year.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see him. I do think it's very funny because my lasting memory of basically the entire playoffs is just when he makes the interception and then he's running, to end the game, but he's running, immediately takes off the helmet. I'm screaming obscenities, being like, "No, don't take off your helmet," because I knew it was going to be at the goal line. But he's a Miami kid doing the Miami stuff. But I just wanted to add, just regarding Sharp, he finished 14th by PFF in coverage rate among all corners in college football last year. D'Angelo Pons with 6. They were really good. They were Sharp was very underrated and didn't get the praise that he actually deserved. And I'm very excited that he gets to be CB1 this year. We'll see how it looks on the other side. But
we'll see what Iowa's corner. Yeah, we'll see what we'll see.
Go ahead.
We'll see just how good this cornerback group is when they go against Ohio State. Like I did the Ohio State preview last week. Yep. And yeah, they have questions at wide receiver. So Jeremiah Smith's probably the best offensive player in the game.
Yep.
And then, okay, who fills in for Carnell Tate?
Right. He went like 8th or something, didn't he? Or 14th, or what was he? He was a first-round pick.
So, he was a first-round pick, and then you had
Innis.
Innis, and you bring in the kid from UTSA. But behind those three is Chris Henry Jr. He is 6'5" and like 205 pounds.
He's insane. But you see that. But one of the things that's why one of the things that I like that they've done is that they clearly understand that at least in the league, there are a lot of big wide receivers, and you need physical big corners.
Yeah, it also might not matter if your defensive line is sacking Julian Saint. Yeah, a 6'5" wide receiver is no good if the quarterback can't throw the ball, right? So I think this defense might be the best in the country, at least in the top 3.
I mean, I don't think it's a stretch to say. I think that last year they were really underrated. Last year, I also think that this year on paper they're probably better. I mean, they're deeper on the lines. Yes, you lose Fisher and you lose Pons, but I mean, Sharp is really dang good. You bring in a guy like Harris with the pedigree. You have Gant.
I think you'll miss Pons is his physicality in the run game too.
I agree.
He was really good.
That's one of the things that Sharp is. It definitely didn't show anything close to like what Pons.
Well, no, like Pons was able to. He had that ability to kind of slip through blockers, and a lot of that was due to that he was 5'9".
Yeah.
And he had excellent body control and could turn himself and squeeze past blockers. And you saw it in the national championship game. He had a tackle for loss on Mark Fletcher. You saw it throughout the year where he could just shoot the gap and get in there and stick his nose in there and make a play. Whereas Sharp, he might be willing to do that, but it's easier to block a 6'2" guy than it is to kind of find a little mouse in the house like Pons. I mean, Ohio State's Indiana's defense, I think it's them or Oregon is probably the best defense in the conference. Oregon's they're both teams are 1-2 on the defensive line. You can make arguments for either one who has the best defensive line. I do think Indiana has better linebackers than Oregon. And then you go into the secondary, and all those Oregon freshmen that were really good last year are now sophomores. And, they bring in Coy Perch from Minnesota, who's, I think, a much better player than Dylan Thiedemann.
Yeah, I agree.
So, it's a close 1-2 there. Ohio State loses a lot. Like Arvell Reese, their other Sonny Styles.
Yeah, they're replacing 8 starters. I think Brenton makes it.
But they did that last year too. Except this year they have to replace Caleb Downs, who's a human eraser.
That's what I was saying. I still thought he was one of the best defenders, like basically best players in college football.
He was the best defensive player in college. Yeah, he was the best defensive player in college football, and it could be argued that he was the best player overall in college football.
I agree. I also thought the way that he there was a play where Kalen Black busts one in that Ohio State game. He's out on the far sideline, and he's Kalen Black. He ran really well at the combine. He put up some good numbers. And
he's the first running back off the board.
Right. Well, I'm just saying Caleb Downs was basically tracked him down looked like moving in half speed, essentially. Like basically just like kind of, okay, I got to get this guy out. But like that was just like, wow, that was
and
me.
he
Like,
was the
wow,
guy
this
who
is
returned the
insane.
punt in 2024.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
he's they will miss that piece. Now they bring in Earl Little Jr. from Florida State, and they bring in a lineman from Alabama and some other places. And I think a nose tackle from UCF. But yeah,
Mhm.
Indiana's defense. Oregon has a new defensive coordinator. It's a 1A 1B situation.
Mhm.
But I there's not a team I would pick outside of other than Indiana if I had the choice.
I'm with you. I'm 100%. I just think that IU's being again underrated, which I think is fine. Like I don't really care. I think that we talked about this before, but like you know, to me, it doesn't really matter what they're ranked. And actually, the fact that they're ranked sixth is probably like Sid can do his like, hey, look, you guys just won a title. You won 16-0. You know, look where they think of you. So
All right, we're going to talk about rankings because I've got my issues on rankings, and I've had a crappy day, and I need to vent about something, so I don't get in trouble about other things. But I thought six was where IU was going to land. How they landed there is absurd.
yes,
With the second most first place votes with 14, then you had coaches vote them at 14, which is outrageous. They were 2 points behind Notre Dame, so at five, so you're basically a top five team, which you can make an argument for all the teams above them. And you can make a case for IU as well. But I thought six was right about where they were going to land. It's a fair ranking. I just don't think, kind of like the college football playoff committee, they took a weird ass route, but they got to kind of where they needed to be.
correct.
To have the second most first place votes and come in six is a weird way to go. But you
Well, that's
look
just
at
see.
it,
It seems like, I mean, I don't
yeah.
really put any. I don't really put any stock in the coaches, but I do think that it seems like that's a little bit of a grudge. That seems like
I mean, who
some
knows?
weird.
Signetti could have just left them off the thing and say, well, you know what, we're just going to tank our own rankings so we could have
Well, that actually,
an edge to talk
someone had
about.
him 14th, which is crazy to me. I don't know. Just looking at some of those other teams back there, it's like, come on now. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a clear top five or top six teams, and Indiana's part of that group, and that's all that matters.
100%. I don't think it's really debatable because, like, I just again, even like, I even with teams like Georgia, like I know that IU has a new quarterback and whatnot. I still think that I think that they got.
Georgia's going to start a true freshman who is a 3-star recruit on the offensive line. This isn't like the Georgia of
Of
5 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, none of these teams are.
Yeah.
That's the way the portal is worked and things like that. But each of the top six teams have a case to be number one, and each have a case to be number six.
Yeah.
They all have flaws. There's not one team that will run. Is they're the clear cut favorite, and everybody's saying, oh, Indiana won it last year, they should be number one. I get that. I get that argument. But in this era of college football, the turnout, it starts new every year. This is not like a continuation of last year and all that stuff. Like
Yeah.
Hoover's good, but there's also some question marks in there too.
Totally agree.
And the other teams are pretty damn good. You bring Julian Sayin back, who was a Heisman finalist. You have Dante Moore back, who avoided going to the New York Jets in a probably good life decision. Arch kind of found his footing at Texas. They had Camp Coleman's making one-handed grabs on ducks in practice. Notre Dame, I think, look, everybody hates on Notre Dame. They're going to be really good. They probably have the largest chip on their shoulder as well. I don't think it's brand bias. I don't. I hate that excuse. It's brand bias. It's not. Nobody, maybe the person who did it at 14th, but it's like that's such a hot take excuse. Is there's brand bias still?
I agree. I did think like I also think that like beyond basically OSU, because they were saying. I do think that there's like you're right. It's like the top 6 or 7 or so are completely it doesn't just throw darts at the dartboard. It doesn't really matter to me early in the season. But I do think that like I'm interested. So I'm interested to see where the AP poll lands, because if it's also 6th and you see weird voting patterns by certain weird Southern journalists, that would be weird to me. But because we don't know who actually voted for who and where, it's kind of a non-story. So we'll see where the other poll is, because that's the one that's going to be interesting to me, where they actually have to publish who is putting people where. And I think that 6 is fine. I don't think but I do think it is bulletin board material for SIG.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah, whatever. It's right where they should be, probably.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's just, yeah, it's how they got there. I don't think anybody's like, oh man, Indiana's thing. I think they know that Indiana's good. You've had a lot of people do a mea culpa and all that stuff, and and I get it. Social media for clicks, yelling, screaming brand bias, and all that stuff gets you noticed with certain places and things like that. Now, if it comes down to Indiana goes 10-2, and there's a SEC team who's 10-2 and stuff like that, and you see a whole bunch of SEC, we'll see. But Indiana, whatever. It can't be the brand, because they have the largest living alumni base. You saw what this fan base does for bowl games. So it's not like, oh, you're bringing in, whatever small D3 school that has, a graduating class of 500 and an alumni base of 15,000. And you're like, okay, you're bringing in the nation's largest alumni base. You have people who want to spend money and go to games. Now, look, it's year 2, so it's not as the kind of the shine is like, it's not, hey, I'm going to go pay whatever it is to go to the Rose Bowl, because we haven't been there since 1967. We were there last year, and then so maybe some people don't make that trip and crowds thin out, but it's the title game got 30 million viewers. People are watching it because of IU.
Yeah.
If you want interest in it, it's because IU and a new flavor in it is in it. It's not.
Yeah,
if people are saying, well, it's IU, so they're not good, they're idiots.
Yeah, but I'm saying it's first new champion since 96 with Florida.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, the college football needed that, and I agree with. Oh, and with Jamie in the chat, fellow Jamie here. 14.
Of course, you agree with Jamie.
Yeah, 14 was someone had them that was the lowest that someone had them. They didn't have names, but that was apparently what I saw on Twitter. So I don't know. Again, I think that was real, but someone had them 14th.
One of the SIDs. I don't think coaches are filling this out, but
sure. You're probably 100% right.
But yeah, I just don't buy into the brand bias thing anymore. And plus, it was good for business.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I mean, kind of taking a step back, like the Indiana story was really good for college football. I think it gave fan bases like Northwestern.
It's really good for college football. It's really bad for college football coaches.
I agree.
And job security. I mean, it gives every fan base a hope. Northwestern just got a $35 million gift, and it's like, okay, and we're talking about their stadium, and
it's beautiful.
An awesome new stadium and stuff like that. It's like, hey, if they could put things together, they play in the Big Ten. David Braun seems to be a good coach. You got Chip Kelly there on offense, who won a national championship with Ohio State as an offensive coordinator. And it is, why not us? Why can't we be, do what Indiana did? And things like that. Now, I hate the articles of, well, this team's going to be the next Indiana. There is no next Indiana. And I said this
that's one of my biggest pet peeves. And they keep doing it with teams like last year. They were doing it with Illinois. And it's just like, you could do it with like maybe Northwestern, but even Northwestern, like I guess it's Vanderbilt. But there's no other school. Like, what other school? There's nothing that compares to. I mean, I guess like Northwestern, Vanderbilt. That's kind of it. There are other like Indiana's that could be like that. There's no
But
other.
even then, Vanderbilt has won 9 and then 10 games. They had
Right.
a Heisman finalist, a Heisman
Yep.
runner-up
Yep.
last year. It's not like they're coming off of now. Vanderbilt did it 2 years ago. Yeah, that's different story. But they've had 2 years of great success. They were just missed the playoff last year. If they had beaten, who'd they lose to? Texas and somebody else.
They were down like a bunch in that game, if I recall correctly. They were down a bunch, and then
They came back and made it like a one-score game or whatever.
Yeah.
They like if they win one more game, they're in. Illinois was, Illinois has a good football history. They won the Big Ten they went to the Rose Bowl in 2007. I think they won the Big Ten in 2001 and played in the Sugar Bowl. So it's not like they haven't done anything for like 50 years. They don't have the success of Ohio State or Michigan or hell, even Michigan State in the mid 2000s. But they're the next. Indiana was literally the worst program in FBS history up to that. Now, people will say, well, it was 100 years of futility. No, it wasn't. They actually, after 1948 or something, they had a 500 record.
Yeah.
And then it went off the rails. And you could point to the Phil Dickens stuff where they got turned in by Purdue and Ohio State for paying players and tanked the program and tanked basically support for the football program too, because all sports got put on a postseason ban. It cost swimming and diving a couple national championships, probably cost basketball a couple championships as well, and is one of the reasons Branson McCracken left.
Yeah.
So people don't go into that part of it, and it's why I refuse to buy the blue home field shirts. But people don't realize like that kind of triggered the downfall of Indiana football.
Yeah.
And it wasn't 100 years of going 0-11 or 1-10 and stuff like that. Were there years like that? Sure. But it wasn't all that bad for the first 50 years. But there is no, it's such a lazy take. It's such a lazy take. Who's the next Indiana? One, it gets you hits and headlines and all that stuff. But two, there is no next Indiana.
No, I agree. It'll never happen again. There's not really anything that, unless it's like some random FCS school comes up and somehow does the impossible, essentially. There's no real comparative situation.
If UMass goes to the playoff and wins the national title, okay. We'll have a discussion.
Yeah.
If UMass does, or if Akron does, or one of the bottom G5 teams that just doesn't have because there's no other team. I mean, Wake Forest, maybe.
Yeah, that would be another one.
But you go back. Stanford has good football history. Cal has good football history. I mean, Cal should have been in the national championship game, and with Marshawn Lynch, and was it the Aaron Rodgers year?
Yeah, I think might have been. It was after that. Wasn't it? Or
it was 07. Was it 07? I don't know. They missed out on the nat. They were like third, so they missed out on the national title game. Went to some off-brand bowl and got killed because nobody cared. Akron without Daly. Daly went to Kent State. That's another one they throw it up there. Yeah, Kent State too.
Kent State, 100%.
But yeah, it's such a lazy take. We're gonna take a few more questions, then we'll get out of here. We're closing in on 11 p.m. Eastern time.
Yeah. I'm just trying to find that's where they really get up to. Yeah, they had some good teams. Jeff Tedford. Where was it here? I forgot what they had with Goff. They were with Sonny Dykes. They were really good. I did want to. One thing I wanted to ask you about. was the Sig, breaking down Mendoza and Hoover with Reese Davis. I did think it was really, it's fun to get
Oh,
an
it's so
insight.
good. It was so good. I mean,
Yeah,
that was, if you were a football junkie, that is the good stuff.
yeah,
It really explains why Indiana's good. It does, and it really explained why Fernando Mendoza was so special. I thought his best throw of the year was the one down the sideline to EJ Williams against
100%
Iowa.
against Iowa.
And apparently they had not repped that play. Chandler Whitmer had shown him a clip of Justin Herbert doing it with the Chargers.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden they get the look on defense, and that's the throw he makes,
Right.
and stuff like that. But it goes into like the trust that they have and the repetitions that they do, and then seeing how they run practice and run drills. And I know there's a lot of people on the beat who complain that we see the same, whatever, 4 or 5 periods of practice. But they break down every part of the play into chunks, and they repeat it and repeat it and repeat it until it becomes second nature. And then when you go back and watch tape with Sig, you go, that's why.
Yep. 100%. It was just brilliant stuff. And one of the things I did take away was, I think he kind of talked about it or hinted at it, but clearly, Mendoza was. I don't think that Josh Hoover has the arm talent of Fernando Mendoza. I think that's really.
He does not.
Yeah,
he has good arm talent, but he does not have Mendoza.
There's very few quarterbacks that do, and but I do think, that people are going to be surprised that. I mean, Josh Hoover can make the throws. Now, can he make some of those dime throws 60 yards down the field that Mendoza made? He can throw the ball far. I don't know if he can throw it on a rope. And I like the ones that are the most the hardest throws to me in football are hash to sideline, opposite hash to sideline. And that was the throw that Mendoza made. That was like, whoa, like this dude is, we're cooking with not just gas, we're cooking with like nitroglycerin here, because this dude just unleashed an absolute with someone in his face, made an unbelievable throw. Now, can Josh Hoover do that? I don't think so, but I also don't think that he's going to necessarily need to, for IU to win games. I think that was a unique situation at Iowa last year, where Iowa was also a very, very darn good team. And we saw at the end of the year, I think Sig, did he not? I think he had Iowa ahead of Notre Dame in his final poll. I think he talked about that at one point. Maybe I'm making things up, but I do think that was very funny. And you can tell though, with some of the things that they show, some of the plays that they showed that he really liked from Hoover, that he clearly, it wasn't. I obviously Sig is doing his homework, but like it's not just homework. It's like this dude is doing hours and hours and hours. He's watching every good play, and then after that, watching every bad play. How can I get the best out of this kid? And so
the proof is in the pudding. He's had I don't know. I forgot how far back it goes. Maybe 2019, but every quarterback he's had it from JMU on has either won Conference Player of the Year or led the nation in QBR.
Right. Yeah.
I couldn't get it. I will watch
well,
that
and,
YouTube
and I
thing
think the other
again.
thing that he made the point is that I think that people don't really get is that the point that I thought was the most salient there was that he talked about how it's not just, sometimes they have dual threats, sometimes they have pocket quarterbacks, sometimes they have a mix of both. And it's not like just one type of guy that they're winning this with. It's not just.
No, it goes back to like what I said about that tight end screenplay. He will dust off something from a decade ago because the quarterback at Elon had the same type of characteristics as Josh Hoover. Like I'm pulling that out of my backside, but that's what it is. It's like, oh, hey, we had a quarterback who matched these things. We can do this. This play was really successful 15 years ago. Let's run it, because that tight end screen was a 40-yard walk-in touchdown because it was executed perfectly. And it was a play that he just pulled out of his butt from 15 years ago. Like, it wasn't like the day of the game he was like, hey, let's run this play. Obviously, he watches a ton of film and he goes, hey, this is going to work. And I think what stood out to me the most was that I think Reese Davis asked him, how many times do you have to watch a play to get it? He's like, I know what they're doing after one try. Now,
Yeah.
if they're doing something super special, it might take 2 or 3. But after I know the basic concept of the play after one look, which is insane. If you know if you've watched film with coaches, even high school coaches, the amount of times, and I hate when they do it because it makes me nauseous. The stop start, back and forth, back and forth. It's like just play the thing all the way through.
Yeah.
But to get it in one try, it just shows you how genius this is. Luke has a good question.
Yeah.
How much longer do you think Sig will be the head coach before he retires? And do you think one of the coordinators takes over? When does his contract go through? 2032? Is it
31? Or is it 32? Oh, because he signed. Maybe it's a little longer. I think he's gonna. I think
he's done after this contract.
64. Yeah, I don't think he'll get another contract. He's 64. He's 64 right now.
Yeah, so he's probably. I think he has another 7 years on the. Yeah, I think he's.
I think that's it, and we'll see
if
they can keep him. But I mean, my take would be that Brian Haynes is the guy. I mean, maybe I'm wrong here. What do you think about that?
I was talking to Andy Graham about this on the phone, and maybe it's a situation where Brian Haynes goes and becomes a head coach somewhere else and then comes back.
Yeah.
But it does seem like you're paying the guy upwards of $3 million. He's basically runs the defense himself. He's the head coach of the defense. And Sig has said that he knows how to run he knows how to run his side of the ball and that stuff. And in like a micro sense, he knows how to be the CEO of the defense and how he transitions that. Now, not every coordinator, as we know, becomes a great head coach, but there is a path to get some continuity here and whatever. And Haynes has turned down some jobs. Some good jobs too. So do I think that he stays 7 years to be the head coach in waiting? Probably not. But I do think that there would be a path for him to come back, like maybe take a good G5. Even then, I don't think he leaves for a G5 team.
No, I think he's
maybe take another P4, a power 4 with the idea of I'm going to cut my teeth, see what it does, and then come back. Or he stays on. Look, Sig has said a million times his coaches love coaching for him. The work-life balance is great. Nobody's miserable. Everybody's working the hours that they want to work and get stuff done.
But I also just think that like the guys like Shanahan, the guys that have been with him the longest, like Shanahan specifically and Haynes specifically, those two like they were like, weren't they like talking about making like 10 grand a year and like basically living making absolutely nothing? And
they made 10 grand a year and lived in like a house that got condemned. So
right, but you saw like with Tino, there was no. I totally got why he left to go to UCLA to call plays because he wasn't going to get that at IU because Shanahan's entrenched right now. But you can tell like the grass isn't always greener. Like there is a reason that
especially coming off of the Sig tree, you're going to be expected to win right away.
Right, I agree.
Yeah, so
I believe Holtz was like 67 when he. I'll have to look it up, but I think he's like 67 when he finally retired.
We're not supposed to talk about the Jets, Jamie. So that's we're gonna wrap it up here. It's 11:10. We need to go to bed. I need to get down to Bloomington tomorrow. Thanks everybody for joining us and listening to us and sending in questions and all that stuff. If you're listening on recording, thanks for listening on Spotify. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel so it pops up. We're also, streaming on X and Instagram, which is our handles are at Hoosier_huddle. And we'll have everything next week again. But, a lot of we will see the same periods of practice probably and all that stuff. But what I look for is kind of like the little details, the different styles of coaching. I thought was really interesting. How guys look physically after, because we're getting into week 3, and that's the dog days of fall camp. If you've ever gone through a fall camp or preseason camp for football, man, that second or third week where there's still 2 weeks left that's when it gets tough. You're sick of about hitting the guys on your team, and you're ready to hit somebody else. So we'll be there. We'll bring you everything that you need to know. We'll also have all the rest of the fall sports. Volleyball starts up this week, as well as they have an exhibition on Friday against Notre Dame. They entered the season ranked 16th. Men's soccer is always good. I think the women's soccer team was up 2 or 3-0 tonight against Hampton in their season opener. So hit that like, hit that subscribe as well. And then keep coming back to HoosierHuddle.com. We'll have discussions in the forums. I'm in there usually all day, Monday, 7 days a week. I usually check in multiple times on the weekend and all that stuff. So thanks, Jamie, for co-hosting.
Yeah, it was good to chop it up. Can't wait for next week.
Yeah.